Welcome to the Loreband, a World of Warcraft lorecast brought to you by the Warband podcast. That's right, it's your favorites, me, Swaglock, our boy Chicken here with us today. We're going to do something a little bit different, a little bit wild. If you're a part of our Discord, you kind of knew this was coming up. I believe we also mentioned it on past episodes. However, with Christmas here, Chicken and I are both extra busy. Christmas, but we also want to spend time with our families and just kind of relax and not take a break from the podcast, but have 1 week where we're not trying to coordinate our schedules to shove time in and sit down and record the podcast. And so we want to sit down and do one big recording together for the next 2 episodes and make it something special. Early on, Chicken, I don't even know how early. It was probably like episode 2 or 3 of the podcast. I introed the podcast as like a joke. Like we do our kind of joke intros. I was like, the Loreband, a World of Warcraft lorecast, right? It was just kind of a joke. It was never meant to be serious. But ever since then, people are constantly asking, like, yo, when's the Loreband going to become a real thing? When's the Loreband going to become a real thing? Well, as of right now, it's not a real thing in terms of being its own podcast. But we did think this was the perfect time. Midnight is around the corner. We wanted to do something special for the holidays. And so we wanted to do 2 episodes for you of the Loreband podcast. If it was actually a real podcast. Obviously, this is still just the normal Warband. But now we're talking about lore and specifically everything you need to know going into Midnight. Or at least enough. Enough information that when you go into Midnight in 3 months. Is it 3 months from now or two months? 2 months and like 10 days, something like that.
I mean, sure.
Or whatever the answer is. When you finally get the chance to go into Midnight and you see these characters, especially some of the main characters, right? Like the characters from the cinematics and Eritor and some of the others that you get to be like, oh, I know who this is. I know the background, or references are made to things like the Sunwell that you get to be like, oh, I know what that is. I know why that's important. And that will allow you, because I do think part of the beauty of an MMO is the world that gets built, right? And Chicken, I just want to ask you real quick before we start talking about the actual lore, what has it been like as a WoW player? Because you love playing WoW. Dude, you love WoW so much that you're on a podcast weekly about World of Warcraft, right? Like this is your game. When you went in on WoW, you went hard on WoW. So what I want to ask is, as a WoW player who isn't super aware of the lore, how does that affect your experience and like your gameplay going through World of Warcraft?
Yeah, I'm a really bad person to ask this question to, because I'm just not super lore heavy in really any games. Like, to be honest, like there's like a handful of games where I think some of it just is my childhood, kind of just like growing up playing games. I'm like, oh, like this is kind of like my thing. So like, I'm just going to play it. Right. Or I'm going to follow the lore because I've done it for basically like my whole entire life. But other than like
Pokemon.
Wow. Well, I was thinking like, other than WoW, I don't play a lot of huge like lore intensive games recently. But back to the question at hand, I don't think it's necessarily like changed how I play the game. I think there's things in the game that I definitely miss out on. Like I think it was in Dragonflight when I was like, I was doing the Evoker Drakthir like starting zone kind of deal, and how that kind of ties into the first raid, and I was like, whoa, like that was like something that just like clicked in my mind of like, whoa, like this really just like does tie everything together. Like, oh my goodness, like everything in this game is tied together.
Oh yeah.
And that to me was like, well, maybe I should kind of like, maybe I should do like something with lore. Maybe I should try to pick up with something.
Yeah.
But then like,
it's just overwhelming.
you look at it, yeah, it's you know, it's 20 plus years of game in what?
Ooh,
You know, I've
yeah.
only played it for maybe like a tenth of that. Well,
Mm-hmm.
more than a tenth, like a quarter of that time. Oh wow, that seems kind of weird. It's less than a quarter, but it's
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
kind of sort of there. But
Because we
yeah,
got like
it's weird.
3 years in WoW now.
Yeah, so yeah, I would have started in like 2020
Mm-hmm.
or like late 2021 is what I'm thinking.
Oh yeah, maybe 4 years.
Yeah, because
Because you would have
I'm
been ended like
thinking
mid Shadowlands was when you started.
yeah, because Dragonflight would have came out in 2022.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so it was like late 2021 that I really started getting into the game.
Yeah, you've been putting some time in already. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, and there's so much more time that's been in it. It's weird, but I'm just not super lore intensive into games in general and storyline. You know, I play the game to enjoy like the gameplay, not the story. That's kind of always been my thing. Like, oh, if I wanted to, you know, be involved in a story, I'd watch a TV show or something.
Well, that's
it's a bad reference, to be honest.
But you're not totally incorrect, and that's one of the beautiful things about WoW is like there are so many ways to play this game. I love the story because I've loved the story since I was a kid, right? But at the same time, the way that I interact with the game the most is like challenge content generally, right? So like doing dungeons, doing raids, kind of like trying to challenge myself, doing things with people. I like social elements of the game.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But then you also have my wife, right, who is now getting pretty heavy into WoW, which is a surprise, a joyful surprise. And she's in the same room with me right now. She's across the room, just working on her house, and that's all she cares about. She just wants to do player housing. I think it broke her heart this week when she realized that she can't just keep asking me to give her more gold to buy stuff off the auction house for her house.
Oh my gosh.
And like probably should go out into the world and do some quests and build up reputation and do some rep grinds, which to be fair, I also hate rep grinds. So like I'm in the same boat.
Listen, I can't keep giving you gold, dear. Like you're gonna have to do something.
Yeah, it doesn't help. Plus she won like 25,000 gold from a guild giveaway we were doing. And so like she had like no real concept of how much gold that like actually was, because her only experience of buying things was housing stuff, and housing stuff is always so expensive. And so I'd be like, yeah. That's actually
housing stuff is like ridiculous.
Yeah. Although, again, though, like the cool thing that I've enjoyed watching is as she starts to see things she wants to make or decorate her house with, it is forcing her to say, "Oh, I want to go explore the world, right? I want to go start to explore." And I think that's kind of a little bit of where you're at too, where you're like, "Okay, I've been doing all this stuff, and I see people get excited for things, but I don't have the same excitement that like when something's announced, I'm just not like, whoa, that's the coolest thing ever." Until, you know, for you, it's like, I want to experience it first to see if it's cool. And then for me, I'm like, yo, we're going to Koresh. And you're like, what the heck is Koresh? You know, I think that those were two moments. Dragonflight, there wasn't a ton in Dragonflight that I was like, whoa, this is happening, right? Like we went to Aberrus, the Shadow Crucible, and that was like Deathwing's secret lair that he had from years ago, but it wasn't like meaningful to me, right? It was just like, oh, okay, cool. He was here, right? Emerald Dream was sick. I'll give it that. Emerald Dream was one that was sick, for sure.
That was okay. Yeah.
It was sick to me because we had heard about the Emerald Dream for a long time, right? Ever since we learned of the Druids, essentially, right? And Malfurion and his connection to the Emerald Dream. That's been a big deal, and we'll talk about that a little bit today, even in this podcast.
Emerald Dream.
But then on top of that, you know, we had this expansion, and the general the general expansion was kind of like, okay, well, that was cool. But then you go underground and you meet people who claim to be Arathi, which is a big deal, right? Because that's a missing human civilization that was extremely powerful, and now these people are claiming to be a part of that. That's kind of wild, right? So that was cool. We see more Nerubians, which we had met originally in Northrend, so it was interesting to see more Nerubians. But then they announced things like Undermine, right? And Koresh. Both of these have been Undermine more than Koresh, but both have been long-standing names in World of Warcraft of places we knew existed, but had never visited, right? We've, in fact, if you ever look at a like old concept map, I think for original World of Warcraft, they were trying to find a way to make Undermine this actual underground hub as like place you could travel to from multiple locations on the map, and they just couldn't make it work. They could not make it work. And so Undermine has been like in the lore of WoW as this like underground goblin city forever. It wasn't this thing they pulled out of their butts and they're like, oh look, here's an underground goblin city. It was like, no, this is what I love what they said in the interviews. They're like, look, if we're doing an underground expansion, there is no better time for us to finally introduce the underground city that has been in lore forever, right? And so that to me was super cool. Or going to Koresh, right? The first time they announced, I remember, I think I even mentioned on the podcast that I thought Koresh is where we're going once Ethereal started showing back up in Undermine, because Koresh was, again, named in the first expansion that ever came out for World of Warcraft. And now we're finally getting the chance to go there. Again, that's awesome to me. Like, that is just so cool. I think that's amazing. So I want you to be able to maybe not as crazy as I do, but to have a little bit of that when you hear about these things happening, or you meet a character, or you do a quest, or you go to a location, you could say, oh, I know the importance of this. I know a little bit of their story, a little bit of their history. There's a world here, and that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I've definitely like through like a little bit of reading and a little bit of just knowing and playing Remix, it's like, oh, like this person's this. I know where that is. Like you know what I mean? Like just kind of like subtly putting like two and two together. Like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Like this is this and this is this, right? So it's like, oh,
it's just continually evolving.
To me, it's
story.
like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. You get to kind of find little bits of those moments. So
now to other people, it's probably like, yeah, duh, you nerd. I'm like, yeah, sorry.
That's true. All right, so before we get started, I wanted to do two things. One, we have a few listener questions I want to just answer right off the bat. They're kind of more lore related, so I've been holding on to them for this episode. They're not like old, like within the last few weeks. I want to just quickly kind of go over, and then we're gonna, and then I also actually, before we do the lore questions, Chicken, I want to let you know, one of our listeners, an amazing listener, maybe even the best listener out there, Walk and Plague, one of our listeners. If you're listening to the podcast right now, Walk and Plague, you're a hero. You're my hero, my personal hero. You're a hero to all of the Lore Band listeners out there. But anyways,
band.
With that said, Walk and Plague wants to gift you, Chicken. He wants to gift you a copy of the new Christie Golden book, Blood Ties.
Oh, okay. That's kind of neat.
And so
I've never had a gift before.
We're not going to talk about any of the story of Blood Ties here on the podcast. I'd love for you to give it a listen, though, and tell me maybe in a future episode what you thought of it. Because, again, it's so new, I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't listened to it yet.
Good point.
Walken has given me the code for it, so I'll give you the code as soon as we're done recording. So you can get that. You can get that on Audible and listen to it. I checked with your wife first to see what audiobook platform you're most likely to use. So I did confirm with her, and so. I'm excited to get that. You know, we'll take an Audible sponsorship, by the way, if anybody from Amazon. Yeah. Anyways, though, so big shout out there. And I also know I gave you a little homework this week to do the Wind Runner quest line. We'll talk about that later. If you did do it, we'll talk about later when we get to the Wind Runners as we talk about lore. So. With that said, I do have a few listener questions that I want to just kind of dive into right now. And of course, if you want to leave listener questions for future episodes, not next week's because we're recording both right now, but for future episodes, you can go to our Discord, link in the description, and go to the pod questions channel. Right there, you can listen to, or right there, you can post questions. So I'm trying to scroll and narrate at the same time. But you can post your questions for the podcast. We love being able to answer them on future episodes. All right, so first question coming in from Travo. Question for the Lorecast: what is your reaction to Sylvanas' role and character in the present timeline in regards to the latest cinematic in the campaign quest? So basically saying like, hey, all the new Sylvanas stuff coming out. Feel free to pass on this if it means spoilers. I'm going to try and be... Usually I don't care much about spoilers, but again, this is like the brand new current thematic topic. Here's my general take. I'm happy to see that they're prepping Sylvanas to do something. And I'm happy to see that Sylvanas isn't just totally undeadening, I guess you could say, pre-resurrection.
Like cannon fodder, basically.
Well, because remember how in Shadowlands they combined her soul? You might not remember this, but in Shadowlands they combined her soul with her a fragment of her old soul. So her soul had been split when she was killed originally, and so and we'll get into that. I'll explain what that means later in the podcast. But I think Sylvanas was originally handled horribly during BFA and beyond. I will forever say that Sylvanas' character arc should have been that she became War Chief of the Horde, because I think that's cool. So as War Chief of the Horde, though, instead of doing all this super shady stuff to try and like usher in an overthrowing of the Shadowlands by the Jailer, because that's a stupid plot, and I don't understand how she was tricked. I literally don't understand how she was tricked. Sylvanas is way too smart for that. What would have been a way cooler story is if Sylvanas... if Sylvanas had to learn, because as leader of the Forsaken, she got to do a lot of underhanded and shady and really sketchy things. But it would have been super cool if, as leader of the Horde, as War Chief of the Horde, she had to learn how to like not do that, right? Like her gut instinct is to do the kind of shady, hey, let's test these poisons out on living people. But as War Chief of the Horde, she kind of has to learn how to operate from the light. Not the light as in the magic in WoW, but like literally just like operate from a place where people can see what she's doing. And she's like,
yeah,
you know, I think that would be cool. That would have been a cool character growth moment for her, rather than her becoming War Chief of the Horde. And then it's just like, so because in Legion, if you did some of the Legion quest lines, yeah, Sylvanas was doing some sketchy stuff in Legion, but it would have been cool watching her have to like back off of that, right? Rather than just go full villain mode, like have been like, oh wait, I shouldn't be doing this. I have to learn how to like not do this crap, right? I think that would have been cool. That would have been cool. It would have been a cool character arc. I'm excited to see her coming back. Potentially, maybe they kind of leave it up in the air if she'll come back.
She'll be back.
She'll be back, but it's kind of like when, right? The question is really when.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Well, they got to keep you on your toes, man.
So I'm excited for that. I'm excited though, under the pretense that they potentially write like good lore for her, right? So that's the hope. That's the hope. We also have a question in coming from some Sinestra saying, where are the WoW babies? It always seems like Next of Kin is just introduced as some war hero or whatever on the Alliance side or Horde. But like, who is planning the next succession? None of these characters are pregnant. Thrall doesn't appear to be paying child support or anything. Who next? Why aren't these succession talks happening? So actually, Thrall does have a child. Maybe two. I think one. Maybe two. But I think it's just one. Thrall does have a child. Obviously, we have Eretor in Midnight coming up, and we'll talk about him and his story. We have a few. It's hard because every time they try to like build up new heroes, new characters, people don't care as much, right? Like you can't put Eretor in the Midnight cinematic because old WoW players are going to look at that and be like, who the heck is that guy? Why do I care about him? Right? They want to see Thrall. They want to see Illidan. They want to see the Lich King, right? Like that. Those are the things that they want to see. They want to see Jaina Proudmoore, right? Like, and Bobby Newport, right? Like those.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Oh.
But Parks and Rec reference. But anyways,
Bobby
Newport. All right. Anyways, we're moving on. We're moving on for that. But
I mean, they do want to see that.
Yeah, people want to see the heroes that they're familiar with.
They want to see the good stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's the problem.
They want to see all this
like
bummy stuff,
dude. Like imagine okay, I'm gonna step into lore territory that I know nothing about. So if I'm
Wait,
completely
really? There's lore territory you know nothing
if I'm
about?
completely incorrect on this, feel free to laugh. Feel free to laugh. Anybody can laugh, right? Imagine
Well,
like
I'm not gonna know if you're completely
imagine like
incorrect.
a new Halo's coming out and it's like not Master Chief, right? It's like
I
some
think there
like
is a new Halo coming out.
okay, right? But people want to see like Master Chief, right? If I understand correctly, like he's the guy, right? Like he's the guy.
Yeah.
You know? And no matter how many like new Pokemon come out, Charizard's the guy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying.
What I'm saying is they need more. Like just like Pokemon, they can't just stop making new characters. They need more characters, but it's really hard. It's really hard to create these characters that we love, right? That's why we're still talking about Sylvanas 20 some years later as a character, right? Because it's hard for us to like you have other, and I'm blanking on names right now. Which you have like Kalia Menethil, right? Leading the Forsaken. Who cares, dude? You're never convincing me of anything with Kalia Menethil, right? Like, okay, whatever. You right? And so you have these other characters that exist. One exception to that rule is probably Anduin. Anduin's a good exception to that rule, but Anduin's been cooking for years, right? Like Anduin has been, I mean, granted, Anduin was literally in World of Warcraft from the start, but he was like a default,
true.
but he was a default child model, right? Like literally just like the generic children, male human boy model, right? And it's taken them like 20 years for him to finally grow up and like actually be the king and be ruling well, right? Well, now he's not ruling well. He's kind of off doing whatever. But all that to say, those characters exist. We even got, what's her name? The Arathi lady. I can't remember her name. She is she's related to the Lothars, but I'm blank on her name right now. Anyways, she came in. She has one arm. Has a big shield. I'm forgetting her name. I feel really dumb the fact that I'm forgetting her name. That's not the point though. The point is, Faerun. It's Faerun Lothar. I remember her name. Point is though, like nobody really cares. Nobody really cares, right? Like, and I don't mean that in a mean way. I just mean that in like, how does Blizzard build up these characters that we actually love, that we actually get excited for? That's hard to do. That's really hard to do, and that's why even like a lot of what we're gonna talk about today is like old lore type stuff. All right, last lore question coming in. This is a lore question. Oh, coming from Wargramps, by the way. This is a lore question. This is a lore question since I was out of the game for a bit. Why didn't the Thrall come back in and take back over the Horde? I feel like he would bring the Horde back to its former greatness, make Orgrimmar great again. Moga. So here's the thing. Sorry, that last line killed me. Here's the thing about Thrall. You are absolutely correct. Thrall would do a phenomenal job leading the Horde. He would. We all know he would. For whatever reason, that's not the story Blizzard wants to tell. And I know that's like the lamest lore answer ever. That's not the story Blizzard wants to tell, right? But ultimately, I say it that way because I feel like that makes the most sense, right? Like Thrall literally started the Horde, and now he's just like, what if? Basically, the lore reason, the canonical reason, is twofold. One, he's got a family and wants to focus on his family, and two, he's a wicked strong shaman. Like insanely strong shaman. Like I think canonically the strongest shaman, actually. Bonkers level strong shaman, right? And so because of that, the Earthen Ring, which is this like interfaction group of shaman, they kind of need him to lead them, and so he kind of takes that role. I don't know how deeply important that actually is. That's the lore reason for it. I don't know if I buy it. I think if Thrall just wants to be a family man now, he doesn't want to deal with the stress of it.
Dude, he's tired of doing that stuff.
Yeah. I do agree, though, that right now, the council thing that the Horde is doing doesn't work. It's lame. I think council leadership, which is something that Blizzard keeps leaning into. They don't seem to like, right now, for whatever reason, in their storytelling, they don't like direct leaders of factions. Some have them, but others don't, right? Like, you had the Council of Three Hammers for the dwarves for a while. That makes sense. The Council of Three Hammers is cool, because you have these three dwarven families, basically, right? And the Wild Hammer, the Bronzebeard, and the Dark Iron, and they have to somehow reconcile and work together. That was cool. The Council of Three Hammers was kind of sick. I like the Council of Three Hammers. Now, outside of the Council of Three Hammers, I don't like any of this group leadership stuff that they've done, whether it's with the undead, like the Forsaken. Dude, just give me a good leader. Not Kalia, by the way. Just give me like a good leader of the Forsaken, please. Please, what's her name? The rogue lady. I can't remember her name. I think this is a lore episode. I'm just like forgetting names left and right.
The rogue lady.
Listen, dude, I've been cramming my brain trying to remember everything about stuff going to midnight. Like, I don't know if I need to. I don't know if I necessarily need to remember every. Oh, Lillian Voss is her name, by the way. Lillian Voss. She could be a cool leader, right? She could be a cool leader. I just want a leader, right? And the Horde is the same way. They're doing this council leadership thing right now where every race kind of plays an equal part. And the reason why they're doing it is because they've now had 2 war chiefs who have gone absolutely bonkers and tried to take over the world, basically, right? And so they want to avoid that. With that said, I don't think Thrall's ever coming back to lead the Horde because that's just not the story Blizzard wants to tell. That's fine with me under one condition. Make Bane Bloodhoof war chief. Bane Bloodhoof would be a sick war chief. First of all, the dude's huge. He's massive. Tall people make great leaders, by the way.
He's huge.
I just want to put that out there. Tall people make great leaders. I don't know why, they just do. Second, Bane Bloodhoof is a beast, literally and metaphorically. He's part cow, and he's also wicked strong and terrifying on the battlefield. And 3, he's incredibly wise and has a high level of patience. Like they have the best leader possible in front of them. Now, I don't know why they won't do it. Everybody respects Bane. Everybody respects Bane. Heck, even the Alliance respects Bane. Like, you have the perfect war chief, and they just won't.
That's true.
They just won't pick him. So that's my frustration there. With all that said, Chicken, are you ready
for the day?
That's my gripe. We've now almost used up our entire first lore band episode, and we haven't even gotten into the actual lore going into midnight. I apologize. I'm excited though. We're gonna dive into this. If we get a little extra time in here, maybe we'll chop it into a third episode. We'll see what happens. With that said, though, we're about to talk about all things midnight. Are you ready, Chicken?
Yeah, buddy.
Okay, so here's the deal. I know I ramble. I know I rant. I know I go off for a while. I want you, though, to feel free to interrupt. Feel free to make jokes. Whatever it takes for you to make mental connections for these characters, these places, these concepts. And ask me questions. If I say something that doesn't quite make sense or needs further explaining, feel free to ask. Plus, when you yap, it helps me take a sip of water because I'm going to be talking a lot.
True.
True. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that twice so I could get my sip in there. All right. Oh,
Thank you for
wait. That was on the
true.
bingo card, wasn't it? Oh, frick, dang it. So,
What?
somebody... I don't know if you ever saw this. Somebody made a bingo
I
card
did
for the
see
lore
it.
band. I think I
As
pinned
like a
it.
joke.
I pinned it in the general chat of
gosh.
Discord. Yeah. Where is that? That was not intentional, by the way. I'm not doing this because I wanted to. But if you have the bingo card out, you can check off Swag takes a sip of his water. You could also check off Swag pauses to look something up to make sure what he said was right, because I did do that twice now. I did it once with Lillian Voss. I tried to do it secretly so people don't know, but Lillian Voss, I had to look that up. All right.
Just like, I don't care if people know if I'm looking something up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Try not to get fake news.
Here's the thing. I don't want to say things that are lies. And also, I know enough information that I can quickly find the answer I need, right? It's not like I'm coming in blank. I just have 75% of it and need the last 25%. So, with that said, we're going to talk all things midnight. And to begin, Chicken, we have to kind of start at the very fundamentals, like the very core of it, right? So, I want to talk about the characters because there's certain characters who are going to be important. But in order for us to talk about the characters, the locations, the things that are involved, we actually have to just kind of do a little bit of Warcraft Azeroth history. So the first thing I want to talk about are the realms that exist within the world of Warcraft, right? So the universe within WoW is actually like surrounded by different realms. And you can kind of think of this as like dimensions, right? So each realm is and by the way, if you were listening, we're not using any visuals. I went back and forth on whether or not I want to use visuals, but because we know most of our listeners listen via audio podcast only and not on YouTube, I want to make sure everybody can get the same impression that Chicken's getting, and that Chicken isn't getting a unique experience that no one else is having. So I'm going to do my best, but Chicken, again, if there's things that don't make sense or you're having a hard time picturing it, just let me know and I'll try to describe it a little bit better. But essentially, picture our like the WoW universe as like a big circle, right? And then outside of that, you kind of have more Venn diagram circles attaching onto that bigger circle. And each one of those is like a unique dimension that exists adjacent to the main universe of WoW, right? And so like our character lives in the center of that. And the further you get away from the actual universe, right, into the other dimensions, and the further away you get, the more those realms just become like pure forms of some sort of energy, right? Whether that energy is like light, void, death, order, chaos, etc., right? Like it kind of breaks down more so into concepts. And so you have the main universe of WoW, and surrounding that are these different realms. You have like a realm of light. You have a realm of void. You have a realm of death. Now, death, for you would know the Shadowlands, right? So the Shadowlands is kind of that. It's a little bit more complex than just death.
Oh, I thought
right?
that was a joke.
No, I'm not kidding, right?
I was like, Shadowlands is so bad that it reminds you of death.
No, Shadowlands. So how it works, right, is you have like pure death, right? But then somewhere in between pure death and our world is the Shadowlands, right? That's where the Shadowlands lives.
Okay, that's fair.
And so the closer you get to our world, the more it kind of starts to look like something a little unique, right? And it's hard to explain, but that's one of the best ones. Another example to this is like the Emerald Dream, right? So you've been to the Emerald Dream back in Dragonflight, right? It's this realm of like nature magic, right? But it's not just pure nature magic. And that's because the Emerald Dream kind of sits in between our existence and pure nature. It's kind of an in-between, right? And so all of these different like elements, right, kind of touch upon our universe. And so the going theory right now that people have is that our universe only exists because it is the spot where all of those elements intermix. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
It's where you have life and death, order, chaos, light, void, all these different elements kind of mixing together to create that. And basically any type of magic that your characters use in the game pulls from one of those in some way, right? So even like arcane would come from that orderly magic. Fire would come from like a fire elemental plane type thing. So anyways, hope that makes sense. That's at the very basics. And the reason why I'm actually talking about the realms is because there are cosmic forces that often come from these realms, right? So it's not just, hey, we have death in the Shadowlands. It's also like, oh, actually, no, you have that pantheon in the Shadowlands, right? You have the jailer, and you have Sire Denathrius and the others, right? Like you actually have these creatures, these coming from these realms, right? In the same way, you kind of have it coming from all the different kind of elements. And so there's 4 of these cosmic forces or like cosmic beings that I want you to know for the story of Midnight, right? There's 4 that I think are going to play a role and are important to understanding the story in Midnight. The first is the Titans. The second is the Burning Legion. The third are the Void Lords. And put a little asterisk on the Void Lords and make a note that they also have these underlings called Old Gods. And then the last one is the Naru. the Naru, right? So you have those four: the Titans, Burning Legion, Void Lords, and the Naru. So if we start with the Titans are like massive, dude. They're like bigger than planets, and they're just kind of going throughout the universe. Are you about to say something?
No, that's just ooh.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yep. And I'm sure you've heard of the Titans referenced quite a lot in WoW. They are often referenced, especially by the Earthen. You can hear Earthen reference Titans a lot because the Earthen, we'll get to in a second, but they're basically created by the Titans, right? So the Titans thrive and exist off of arcane magic, specifically order magic, right? So arcane is an element of order magic, and so the way arcane works is it works off of order. But because the Titans are so driven by arcane order magic, they actually go throughout the universe and they just order planets. They literally go up to a planet and go, oh, this planet looks a little chaotic. Let's bring some order to it. Let's help the creatures here grow in a certain way or evolve in a certain way. And so they kind of bring that order to these planets, right? So in its simplest, purest form, arcane magic is just simply order. And that would be the opposite of like chaos magic or fel magic, right? If you've ever seen like the green fire in WoW, right? Fel magic. It's the exact opposite, right? They're kind of total opposites there. Sort of like light and void are total opposites. And as far as we know, all the Titans were supposed to do is just go around and order planets. They actually are birthed from planets themselves. So if a planet has a, like, for lack of better words, a Titan fetus inside of it, we would call that a world soul, right? So we'll say that planet has a world soul developing in there. And somehow those world souls eventually hatch out of the planet into a Titan. We don't know if it destroys the planet in the process or if it doesn't destroy the planet. Personally, I hope it doesn't, because Azeroth has a world soul in it. So let's... hence why we're in the World Soul Saga right now, right? These 3 expansions. And that's going to be important for the Last Titan when that comes out. Hence the name Last Titan. But anyways, so they kind of go around, they create order for these planets. And if they find a planet that has a World Soul, they just help it along in growing so that it forms into another Titan that can kind of help them in their mission, right? So those are the Titans. Any questions regarding the Titans?
No, I don't think so. Kind of makes sense to me, right?
Sounds good. Sounds
Titans.
good. Big old Titans, right? I mean, that's what you think of, right? Next, you have the Burning Legion, right? So the Burning Legion is like an army of these like fel-infused creatures that go around and they just create chaos and mayhem in the universe. And they kind of just like their fel magic kind of just consumes life around them and destroys things. And they're just the worst. They are just the cockroaches of the universe, basically. They're terrible. They are absolutely horrendous. And they just go around causing mayhem, causing chaos. And that's about it, right? One note about the Burning Legion, though. They're often referred to as demons, right? So they're often referred to as demons or demonic. And they travel through something called the Twisting Nether, which is kind of like... Well, you're familiar with outer space, obviously. You know, that's like your career. Yeah. You are an astronaut, after all. But the Twisting Nether, there is space in World of Warcraft, like outer space as we know it. But then there's also this place called the Twisting Nether. And when we talked about the realms that kind of overlap, the Twisting Nether is like the space in between those realms. Right? So, like... It's kind of this like weird mix of like arcane and fel and other magics that just float around. There's no real like true substance to it. It's just this kind of like it's like more outer space than outer space.
Yeah,
that's the best way I can describe it. But you kind of have to get to it through like portals. You can't just fly to it, right? Like you could fly to outer space. You can't fly to the Twisting Nether. Okay, and also they are known to resurrect themselves in the Twisting Nether. So if you kill a demon in the Burning Legion, it will often just resurrect back into the Twisting Nether and then show up again someday. So if you ever hear lore of like, wait, I thought that guy was already killed, why is he back? That's why they kind of have that ability. It's a little obnoxious, but they can do that. So next up, we have the Void Lords. And the Void Lords and the old gods associated with them are creatures of, well, as you can guess, probably the Void, right? That purpley dark magic that we see Xal'atath running around using all the time. A good example of the Void Lords, and we've never actually truly seen like a powered up Void Lord before until the most recent season, right? So Dimensius, the final boss of the raid, he is a Void Lord. I know they kind of call them like the last of the Void Lords. I don't know what that truly means, because it looks like we saw some in the Midnight artwork. So we'll see what that means, what that looks like. Those might have just been like big Void Walkers. We'll see. But essentially, Dimensius as a Void Lord wanted to travel the universe and just consume planets, right? So not bring order to things, not just be chaotic. He literally just wanted to go and just consume everything. Like, he wanted basically like the universe just to be created almost like in his own design, right? And this chaos, this like kind of voidy, mysterious. A good way to think of the Void versus the Light is the Light will recognize one true path and say, this is the correct path. This is the path. The Void, on the other hand, will often just be like, yo, anything could be anything. You never know what's what, right? Like, the Void just goes, all options are possible. It's kind of like if you walked into a room and you looked over and you saw the door and you're like, oh, there's the door, right? That's the Light. Now let's say you walk into the room, but the lights are off. Dude, anywhere could be a door, right? Who knows where the door is, right? You can't see, you don't know, right? And that's kind of the Void, right? Except the Void does see all these as possibilities. And so the Void Lords kind of are these big destructive force. Now, the old gods were, for the longest time, the old gods were really our biggest interaction with powerful Void entities, right? The old gods are these kind of disgusting creatures that are just thrown into the universe from the realm of Void, and they land on planets. They just land on planets, and if the planet has a world soul, they try to dig into the planet and somehow corrupt the world soul, turning it into like a Void Titan or whatever. We don't really truly know what like the final goal is, but they want to corrupt that planet. And so Azeroth actually had 4 old gods that we know. There's rumor of a 5th old god based on some stuff in Dragonflight or the War Within, but we're not 100% sure, and we don't have true confirmation on that. But Azeroth had 4 old gods that landed on it, right? And started trying to corrupt that planet. So those are the old gods. We also have more recent lore, especially surrounding Xal'atath, that tells us that the old gods aren't quite as in cahoots with the Void Lords as we once thought they were. They might be Void entities, but they might not be working together. They might be working together. It's hard to tell. Most likely, though, they're actually not as allied as we once thought they were. We used to think that the old gods were there to herald in the Void Lords. We don't know if that's the case anymore. Lastly, though, we have the Naru. So the Naru are these like, and this one's gonna be hard to explain, but these glowy, crystal-looking creatures. If you saw one, you would not say that that's a living being. You'd be like, oh, wow, that's a cool piece of artwork or something. They're just these glowy, floaty dudes with no faces or arms or limbs or anything else. They look more like crystal symbols that just kind of float in the air. And they are beings of the light. And they're pretty powerful. But there is one like really important note about the Naru, is that when the Naru become like really exhausted or worn out or near like close to death, maybe even like emotionally defeated, probably a little combination of all of that, they get consumed by the Void and they become a Void version of themselves. And so Naru are interesting because they actually flip-flop from light to Void, and I'm not sure what that means completely. It could mean one of two things. It could mean that the light and the Void are two sides of the same coin, and that like it's actually a big lore indication of how the Void and the light interact. It could also simply just mean that Naru aren't as connected to the light realm as we once thought they were, and that they're actually more complicated beings than just beings of the light. I tend to lean more towards that second one because I think that's more interesting. That there's Right? I'd rather it be like, oh, there's more complexity to who the Naru are than simply just, well, if Naru do this, then all the light does this. You know, like, if that makes sense.
I don't know, man.
It's questionable, though. It is questionable. It is questionable. All right. Now, big break right there. I want to quiz you a little bit. If you're listening in your car right now, driving to work, whatever, feel free to kind of try and answer along. But I want to quiz Chicken because we just went through a lot. All right. I'm going to do a few simple, easy questions, right? All right, Chicken. The realm of death that we can interact with as players is called what?
Oh, Shadowlands.
Yeah, you got it. Now,
is that right?
Yeah. Now, I'm
way.
gonna take it quite a step further. Which class in World of Warcraft pulls their magic from the Shadowlands?
Oh, it wouldn't be. Okay, hold on. I might have blanked out at that part.
I didn't say it. I'm wanting you to make an assumption.
I was like,
no,
is
I
it
never
Demon
said
Hunters?
No, it's not Demon Hunters. Not Demon. They use Fel.
Warlocks.
Nope, not Warlocks. They use Fel.
Mages.
Not mages. They use Arcane. Come on, Chicken. You gotta know
It's not
this.
Death Knights, is it?
Yeah, dude, it's 100% Death Knights.
Oh.
Yeah. So Death Knight, right, using death magic, right? They control the undead. They pull their power source from the Shadowlands. That's where they get their magic from. They tap into that. Yeah. So the more you know, right? That's why when in the cinematic for the Shadowlands, when Sylvanas rips apart that helmet, it opens up a gateway into the Shadowlands. So little fun fact right there. I thought you would enjoy that.
Yeah.
On top of that, next question I got for you. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
What are the 4 types of cosmic beings that I described?
One is Titan, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man. Yeah, this is gonna be really bad if I can't name the rest of them, right?
Yep. That's okay. People are on the edge of their seats right now, waiting for you to give an answer. Maybe you can get a second one though.
Well, it has to be like what's his name? Like Arthas, right? Right.
No.
No.
Dude, did you ever watch those old Beetlejuice videos back in the day? Not Beetlejuice like the movie, but like the dude that would go on to Howard Stern and like do interviews.
Wait. Say that again?
Never mind. Ignore that. Sorry, I'm making fun of you a little bit, dude. I love you.
Yeah, I'm blanking right now, dude.
No, you're good. I know it's late. I know we're recording a little late at night. So you have the Titans, which you got, right? You have the Burning Legion, you have the Void Lords, and the Naru.
Naru.
So those are your 4.
That's right.
Now people might argue, they might be like, well, the Burning Legion isn't really like a cosmic being, and also it was kind of called the Burning Legion after. I know. I just needed easy language for it. All right.
Yeah.
Ooh, with all that said, now that we've laid the groundwork of how the universe works, what these forces are, right? We can start kind of digging into it. But we're not going to dig into it right now. No. We're going to dig into it on next week's episode of the Warband, or the LOREBAND, as you've been listening to today. So we're so excited. Thank you for joining us. Merry Christmas, everyone who is listening. I believe if you're listening when this episode releases, you got like 2 more days. But we're excited for the holidays. It's going to be a fun
3
time.
3 more days?
3. We'll release on Monday. Yeah, you're right. I can't keep track. Work always messes me up.
Nerd.
Yeah. But anyways, we're so excited that you've been listening to the LOREBAND episode with us today. Feel free to join our Discord. Discuss lore with us. Come have fun. Come hang out. Come talk about all things World of Warcraft. And we will see you again next week. Well, actually, we're going to hit stop record, and we're going to start recording the next part. So
Yeah, no, I agree.
We're going to get right to it. But you'll be able to listen next week, unless you're on our Patreon, in which case you'll be able to listen right away to next week's episode.
Oh, true.
Yeah, true. All right. Anyways, we're out.